because whenever I make theatre, I always say to myself, well, why now? There's the first ego that goes, oh yeah, I want to make that show. But then you have to interrogate that and go, why now?
Hello, welcome to the Town and Gown here in Cambridge. My name is Karl. I'm the theatre manager here at the Town and Gown Theatre. This is the theatre bar, and if you follow our page, you may have seen that we've been doing some interviews live on Facebook with creatives that are doing shows here or working on projects. We did most of them during lockdown over the last 2 years because obviously we weren't able to meet in person, but we enjoyed doing them. We like talking about theatre. I like talking about theatre, so hopefully there's some people watching that do as well. And today our special guest is a theatre maker called Russell Lucas, who is premiering his new work here in April, in 4 weeks from today. He arrives. So please welcome to the Town and Gown live stream Facebook, Russell Lucas.
Hello, how are you? All right?
I'm okay, thank you. How are you?
Good. Hello from London, not too far away.
I mean, we can do this in person now. It's practicalities. Maybe we do one live in person when you're here as well.
Yeah, definitely, that'd be amazing for sure. We should first say that I'm expecting an Amazon package from Amazon, obviously, and it's going to be a Bobby Kennedy project prop, so we might actually open it live on air before we go any further. Should just
okay. So when the doorbell rings, what you're asking us to do as viewers is to suspend ourselves waiting for you to bring a package in. I'm kind of hoping that you come back in full costume.
No, I do. I have got a flag. Look. There you go, because I am rehearsing today as well. But
that leads me nicely to talk about the show. As you can see here, the Bobby Kennedy Experience. So this is brand new work for you.
Yes, it is. It's been 4 years in the making. Now, obviously, a couple of those have been occupied with a lot of other things that have been going on in the world, so it's most certainly stalled. But I started making it in 2018. Yes, it's been going for a long while. It's gone through lots of guises, and now, thankfully, because the world is opening up, it's now actually going to premiere at the Town and Gown Theatre in Cambridge on the 7th and 8th of April. So not long now, 4 years.
It's really exciting.
4 weeks
and
now.
Thank you for coming to Cambridge to premiere your work as well. It's really nice to I've seen your work for a long time now, but it's really nice for London theatre makers to come out of London and get work out here first before it goes loose on the country. So thank you for that.
That's all right. I think it's also because you've got a bloody great theatre as well. It's amazing. Such a good space. I came to the old Joint Stock in Birmingham when you used to run that, and you were so cared for and so looked after, and your love of theatre is really evident, and your love of artists, and it's translated into your space. And when I came to see your space probably the end of last year, wasn't it?
Yes.
You can see how much thought and attention you've got there. I mean, you've got bunk beds in the back, for God's sake, for artists. I mean, the thought of what you've done is amazing. So
we all know the stresses of touring at fringe theatre. One massive one is that your digs are usually very, you're sorting it last minute. Sometimes you've seen stories in the news all the time about Airbnbs being let down at the last minute. So yeah, we built accommodation in to hopefully take a bit of the stress out of touring, but also everyone likes a little nap between a matinee and an evening, don't they?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, especially when it's your first show in 12 years, by the way. Because I haven't been on stage for 12 years.
No.
Yeah. Because I've been mostly focusing on directing, and I love directing just as much as performing. But I think over the years I didn't get sidetracked, but I think I enjoyed directing so much I forgot I also enjoyed performing, and I thought it must be time to challenge myself now to get back on the whole board.
This is your first time on stage in 12 years here in Cambridge.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm really excited, and I'm ready with gin and tonics for after.
Yeah. I won't be able to drink though. I won't be able to drink either after the first show, just because of the next day. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I'll lose some brain cells that I desperately need at the moment.
So tell us a little bit about the show, Russell, because I mean, I've been reading up since we started talking about you writing this show. American politics, not my forte, so I needed to get my head in this person. And tell us where did this come from? Where did the inspiration come from to write this?
When I was 12, I used to watch a lot of soap operas with my mum. Dynasty, Dallas, the Colbys, EastEnders, you name it, we would watch it. Well, I'd be made to watch it really because I was the youngest. And so I got hooked on soap operas. And then one day she was watching something called Kennedy, which was basically about JFK. And JFK, just in case anybody doesn't know, was the American president between 60 and 63. And he was assassinated live in front of everybody on the street in the day in Dallas, in Texas. And so I watched that kind of narrative, which I thought was maybe a soap opera, but actually found out years later, obviously it was absolutely true. And then as you grow older, you become a bit more aware of the story. And then I remember my mum saying to me, yeah, but his younger brother was also assassinated. And I remember thinking, what? His younger brother is also assassinated? How did that work out? So, as you grow up, you kind of absorb bits more of history stuff. And I didn't really delve anymore because I was busy doing other things. And then in 2013, bizarrely, I ended up being cast as Bobby Kennedy in a National Geographic documentary. And so the research that I had to do for that role, when I was given access to stuff that wasn't available, which is available now really on YouTube. And so I really dug down on who Bobby Kennedy was and his politics and his journey and his story. And my instinct was like, actually, this guy's super interesting. And he's probably the better politician out of Bobby and JFK. JFK was very much the front man about the look. And Bobby was the man behind JFK when you dig even deeper into it. So the artist in me started to get very interested in him, and I had to obviously portray him on screen. The era, dress like him, walk like him, and we did scenes with Marilyn Monroe and all of that wonderful stuff you would love to do as an actor. So I got to do it, and so my appetite.
I'm sharing a picture of you right now of the poster. So you played him before. You've literally. You're presenting as him on the artwork there, aren't
yes you? Yeah, definitely. And then so then it was about 2018 2019, there was a documentary on Netflix which I'm gonna recommend everybody watch, which was Bobby Kennedy for President, and that spiked my interest again. And I always had this feeling that I wanted to do something again on the stage. And so I thought, you know what, that's the topic, because that topic is so interesting to me, just that era anyway in American politics. I'm the usual British person of, fascinated with Americana and always looking at it going, whoa, what's that about? How do they deal with that, etc. And so and then that was it. I just knew the moment I started watching the documentary, that's what I want to do. I could feel it, because I could feel that I had a connection with him in his journey back then. And as soon as I looked at the documentary, I was like, that's it. That's the guy I need to do, because not because I wanted to get on stage necessarily, but I knew that Bobby was not a target, but really the vehicle that I wanted to explore about putting a theatrical setting, because really the Kennedys haven't really been in a theatrical setting very often. If they are, they're in a very, very regular play. And this isn't a regular play. So that's kind of how I got here, I guess.
Okay. And 4 years later, from page to stage in 4 weeks, who have you collaborated with on this project?
I managed to convince Sarah Louise Young.
I don't think she took much bribing.
We've worked together for 8 years, something like that. I think I counted the other week. We've definitely collaborated, worked on at least 7 or 8 projects now over the years. But
wow.
We worked on Julie Maddie Deeply, which is still doing the rounds now, and then recently An Evening Without Kate Bush, which is definitely still doing the rounds now, which is doing very well. And so I managed to convince Sarah Lou, but it was also because I trust Sarah Lou so much. I've worked with her for so long that I knew that she was the person I needed to work with on this, because we have such a shorthand in the room together anyway. And I knew I could go absolutely crazy with her and go, does that work? you know, and I trust her enough to go, no, it doesn't, or she'll get up and show me how it should be done. Do you know what I mean? We have that kind of shorthand, and that's what I needed for this.
Yeah, yeah.
Very much a different dynamic for us a little bit, because I'd say, and I think she'd agree, that it's director in the classic sense, in the fact that she's having a performer bring text to her, bring movement to her, and then the director interprets it to see if it works in the context of the show and in the audience experience. So yeah, so Sarah Lou's on board.
You're both you both use a lot of physical theatre and movement when you're in the rehearsal process. I just want to share this little video. I've gone through the depths of your Facebook to find this. I hope I can still find it. Just bear with me 1 second. Yes, it is there. No,
Okay.
right, I'm going to play your trailer to begin with.
Oh, yeah.
Just so people can get an idea of visually what we're talking about.
Right.
7th and 8th of April, Town and Gown, Cambridge.
And stop motion as well. You notice
That-
we decided
Yeah.
to go for an unconventional trailer because a friend of mine, Alejandro de Mesa, he does stop motion in his own work, and I was like, oh, just do a stop motion trailer for Bobby Kennedy. How interesting that would be. I had no idea where we were going with it, but it actually worked out really well in the end.
Yeah.
It was fun to do. I'm just sat in his lounge, like spinning around on his sideboard, and he's photographing me. But it's very cool.
I found the video I was looking for. Just bear with me. I'm just going to let this play.
Oh yeah.
Are you able to see that?
I can. I'm in the little screen.
I'm really hoping that came across okay. It was a video in your
Something.
Facebook profile. So I've shared the screen. Whether that did you? So one, what the hell is going on there? Two, where on earth did you learn to move like that?
I've just always been a dancing child. I was all the time. You know, I push all the furniture back and be dance to flash dance. You know, when my parents are and breaking lamps and having to glue them. So I've always just moved. I've always moved, and I'm definitely looking back now as an older man. I go, actually, a movement is absolutely part of who I am when I'm a performer. I'm interested in communicating plot through movement. And it's something that Sarah Lou and I explore a lot in all of our work, that movement is key. And as a director, I know that movement can communicate so much, because, you know, that lovely saying is we also listen with our eyes, because we watch and we get information about what the body is doing from each other, body language. So, and then movement is absolutely in the Bobby Kennedy experience. I sent the script to the stage manager last week, and it's only really 16 pages long, the actual script. Because I'd say the show is probably 50% movement and 50% text.
Wow.
And that's because the whole era is most certainly based in dance, because obviously we know there's the twist, the hippie hippie shake, you know, the style of that era. There's Bob Fosse, there was Fred Astaire, there was the hippie movement. All of this is kind of baked into the show. And I really enjoy moving. So I wanted to make sure that was in. It was going to be in no matter what.
Yeah.
And I'm probably, I would say that I'm definitely clowning in the show. So you'll kind of see that, okay, right now he's Bobby Kennedy, but he is kind of a clown playing Bobby Kennedy as well. So it's most certainly movement is absolutely the core of the Bobby Kennedy experience, which is why it's called the Bobby Kennedy experience, because it's not really a kind of biographical show as such. You'll get that, but you're also going to watch a character being dropped into different situations and see what he experiences in it and how he deals with it. So, you know, the beginning of Mr. Bean, when Mr. Bean is dropped into the the spotlight at the beginning. It's
Yes,
almost like
yes.
that. It's almost like that we drop this person in this thing, and he's trying to exist and go, what do I do now? Because Bobby Kennedy's journey was very much after his brother was killed.
Mm.
What do I do now? And he goes from there. He then begins to get back into politics. He doesn't go into mainstream politics because he's had enough. He goes down to the streets and continues to be a politician. So
Mm.
he goes into an authentic version of himself, really. We wanted to, you know, put him through it to see what happens.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and as an audience member, which is what I shall be when you're here, as someone who maybe didn't know Bobby Kennedy well, I knew of the Kennedys. What can what can someone expect to see, learn? Um, who is this for? Who's your audience for this?
It's for everybody for sure, because I wanted to make sure if you come to see the Bobby Kennedy experience, you will still be told who this person is from the beginning, because that's
Yeah,
something as theatre makers that we have to set out our stall from the start, don't we? Have to say, right,
yeah,
this is where you are, these are the facts, let's go. We can't assume now, no matter what age we get, that anybody under 30 has even heard of JFK. Sad that it may be. But and you yourself, when we had a conversation the other day, you didn't know that Bobby Kennedy was also assassinated.
no, no, I didn't.
Again, so it's kind of a little bit of bizarre known fact, but
Yeah,
ultimately the story behind this is the man, and he was known as the runt of the Kennedy litter, and he was known as the man least likely to succeed. And for me, that's super interesting,
yeah,
because he was the man behind JFK. He was the man that got JFK into office. And that for me is interesting, because he was never really wanted to be at the front. And by the end of his life, he was being pushed to the front. And his sense of responsibility was what made him do it in the end. And blow me, the moment he won the California primary, he walked off the stage and he was assassinated.
right.
And so there's this horrible fatalistic, tone to his life. But he always knew, and he always said, I trust the American people. And people did say, I'm not going to vote for him because somebody will kill him. And so there's just bizarre allegory behind the whole thing that I wanted to explore in the show. And I think also what's fascinating about it, that he was very authentic. If he ever found out that he was wrong, he would admit that he was wrong. And by Jove, I wish we had that these days. If a politician says, actually I was wrong and I've changed my mind. That doesn't happen now, because they're worried about their failing brand or their failing name. Whereas Bobby was very much, I was wrong, I've learned, I've changed my mind. And it was what happened with the Vietnam War. He was involved in the doubling down of the funding of it. And then he realized over time he was wrong, and he backtracked. And that's rare for that to
Oh,
happen.
yeah.
We won't get that these days. Not yet. Maybe again one day. Maybe we need a Bobby Kennedy soon. But it's
Do you think that there's an element of the reason why this work is appealing for you to explore and for us to be experiencing is the comparisons that we can draw to modern politics?
Yeah, absolutely. And also because of his politics in general, because he was all about, we said, there's this speech that he was saying to kindergarten children. He said, we're going to have to start to recycle our waste and use renewable energy in 1964. And you just think,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah,
And he would say things like, he said, get a white man to live in black skin for 24 hours and see how you feel. It's just like completely what we hear nowadays still, you know. So yeah, so that's most certainly woven in the show, because whenever I make theatre, I always say to myself, well, why now?
mm,
There's the first ego that goes, oh yeah, I want to make that show, but then you have to interrogate that and go, why now? Why are
yeah,
you making this show now? It may be yes because you want to make it, that's fine, but ultimately, if you can solve the question of why now, then people will come and see it. They'll understand why now,
yeah,
and they'll get a very different experience, because you want people to go to the kitchen, take away from it, and go, that's really important. And hopefully, even with other work I've made, people go, oh, I need to go and watch a documentary about Bobby Kennedy now. You know,
yeah,
that would be a goal for me. That would be an achievement, because he was a work in progress as well. He was a work in progress that kind of got, killed basically. But the legacy that exists from Bobby is really important as well. So yeah, That's kind of it. So in some ways, it's a history lesson. If you've never ever heard of Bobby Kennedy, you get that. But it's also, I can safely say, a 21st century theatre presentation of
Right.
a period
Right.
that's gone. You'll get everything you want. You'll get the 60s, you'll get the music, you'll get the twist, you'll get the
Yes.
you get the pretty dresses, you're going to get footage. Do you know what I mean? And the history is baked in. I'm very
Yeah.
keen that I was always very keen that Martin Luther King was in the show in some way, because Martin Luther King was shot and killed 3 months before Bobby,
Mm.
and Bobby was, but again by the end, his relationship with Martin Luther King was very close to Martin Luther King, and originally Bobby was one of the ones that was key to bugging Martin Luther King's home.
Mm.
And he changed because he realized that he was actually duped. He does say, said that I was told at the time Martin Luther King was a person of interest, which is why I approved the wiretapping. I realize now I was wrong, because Martin Luther King, there was nothing found there really. And they became close. And, you know, Bobby walked at his funeral. He was probably one of the only American politicians that walked at Martin Luther King Jr.'s funeral together with Jackie Kennedy. So there's all this history
Yeah.
on it there. It's a study
There's
of
that.
one man.
There's that whole that era uh, of celebrity. When the Kennedys were around, suddenly that's where politics became household conversation, wasn't it? And glamorized, and celebrity surrounded by it, which obviously we're privy to a lot today. Politicians in their positions because of their status or who they are, or
Yeah.
yeah, we can draw comparisons to American politics of recent years.
Yes. Yes. And really, Bobby and Jack were key to starting that inadvertently, because whatever we think about the Kennedys, they were very, very good politicians. They really knew their stuff. They devoted their lives to it. They had the knowledge. And, you know, Bobby Kennedy was key to making sure that JFK wore makeup on screen, because not only did JFK have medical issues which would make him sweat because of the drugs he was taking, but they were savvy enough to realize that actually cameras are getting closer to faces now, and so we don't want to see you sweat. And so there's a very famous debate between him and Nixon just before JFK gets elected, and Nixon is sweating like,
Yeah.
you know, God knows what, and wearing a grey suit against a grey background. But Bobby knew to dress JFK in a dark suit wearing makeup against a grey background, which now we would do instinctively. You know, all of that yeah, that partnership was key. But whether he wanted, you know, to get Ronald Reagan into office, I don't know. But, you know, because actor, and but
Yes.
you know, who
Yeah.
knows what's right and what's wrong. But they most certainly were the pioneers of brand and look and style. You know,
And
Steve
being on
McQueen.
camera and
Exactly. Yeah.
visible. Yeah.
Yeah. Steve McQueen's come up in rehearsals quite a lot because of that style. You know, the suits, the cars, you know, the Vespers, etc., etc. It's all about the administering of the politics. But in the Kennedys' defense, they really knew politics.
Yeah. So you've got 4 weeks left.
Yep.
So you've been writing this for 4 years,
Yeah.
and you've got 4 weeks left.
Yes.
What do the next 4 weeks look like? What's the process like
We're
for that
we're we're
final?
we're doing okay, actually. I have to say, you know, Touchwood. Um, I've got probably two more sections to devise, which are kind of devising. So what's happening in the moment in rehearsals is that I will write and devise at home, and then Sarah Lou comes to rehearsal days with the two of us, and then we, you know, check to see if things work and the context. But we're at the really, really lovely place now when you make theatre that you go, we know what this show is now, and we know when we create something, has it justified its place in the whole landscape of the show? Does this feel correct? That's kind of the lovely place where you start to cherry pick and go, yep, that works. No, that doesn't work. That's not right. So I don't want to sound too confident, because obviously everything one day can always go wrong. But we're in a very, very good space. So we're now getting to the glue of Bobby Kennedy's politics. And the bizarre thing is, we always had the ending. We've had the ending for a year and a half, and it
Right.
hasn't changed ever.
Wow.
It always felt correct. And yeah, I'm really glad that's happened. I find it curious that has never ever moved. So we always know where we're heading, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we've got our beginning
That's
and
quite rare, isn't it? Because I am, from my experience of working with theatre makers, when once they're in the room, or things change massively and often take a different direction to how it was planned. But you've got a really solid direction with this of where you're heading for.
I think it's research.
Yeah.
I think it's research
Yeah.
for sure. I think I've read so much and watched so much over 4 or 5 years. Again, there's a cherry picking element. I can go, he wouldn't do that. That's not who he is. That totally
Mm.
works. Oh, I know a speech about that. I know I know what his politics are on this. Oh, I know the histrionics. I know the children. I know who was born then. All that type of stuff is absolutely glued into the divisor in me, which then makes it start to go into the writer in me, the former in me, etc. That know your topic like inside out. Because also the Kennedys, as we learned with Julie Andrews and with Kate Bush, is that once you shunt up against a brand of something that powerful, you've got to know what you're talking about,
Mm.
and you've got to be able to treat it with care and with love and respect. And I feel that we're really doing that with Bobby Kennedy, and we've done that with Kate Bush because we have fans coming up to us about it, and we're like, yeah, okay, we know that. That's brilliant. That's fantastic. Yeah, that's absolutely in the show. Oh, yeah, that song is in the show. Yeah, we've got that fact. Oh, I wish we could get that in the show, but because of this, etc., etc. So we're trying to do the tick box things in the
Yeah.
Bobby Kennedy experience, but also give people stuff they didn't know.
Yeah.
And we're nearly there. Thank God.
Yes, I'm so excited. Thank you
That's all
for
right.
for coming here to premiere this work and trusting us in Cambridge and our theatre with it.
I'm
It's
sorry my
4 weeks.
package didn't arrive, by the way.
I'm really disappointed, Russell.
The
I'm
silver
gonna.
microphone as well. It's a silver microphone because I knew that a black microphone, if you go on stage in the 60s, they wouldn't really be black, they'd be silver.
Yeah.
So I found one yesterday. It was like, ooh, Amazon.
Maybe we could give everyone a little update when that arrives later in the comments. The Bobby Kennedy experience is here, April 7th and 8th, which is 4 weeks. Tickets are available at www.townandgown.co.uk. One last thing, Russell.
Yeah, it's like my flag. Here we go.
One thing I really enjoy is your Twitter.
Okay.
And all the work that you did during lockdown for theatre makers, and just getting different points of view from different elements of the industry, and from people that have been around a long time, people that are just emerging, and small houses like ours and bigger houses. Could you just tell everybody a bit about your Twitter? And so many of the daily quotes that you put in there, I read and really think about. Tell them what your handle is and what
Thank
you
you
do
so
on
much.
Twitter.
I'm at Russell Lucas, but it's one L in between. So I think as an independent theatre maker, I've always kind of felt like I've satellited what people term as the theatre industry. I've never had Arts Council funding. I don't come from money. I'm from Clacton-on-Sea in Essex. There's no money there. But I've always still made theatre. So I think that's what I wanted to shine a light on, and during the lockdown years, as it were. And I can't say too much now, but thankfully I ended up writing a book based on that, which is going to be released in May, which is all about making theatre when it's just you in your lounge, this lounge. And so the Twitter and the YouTube channel was really about that kind of, I guess where I come from is that shining a light on people that actively work in theatre all the time, every day. They're traveling around with their one suitcase up and down train stations, and they make a living out of it. Now, that's not often studied. And Lynn Gardner, I had a chat to her about this, and she said, well, it's the quieter careers. And so really the 300 Thoughts of Theatre Makers channel is really trying to focus on the quieter careers. I think we've spoken about this in my book. I mentioned your venue. I said, because how many people have heard of Town and Gown? How many people have heard of Old Joint Stock? Because we have to start to open up the space for the other versions of success to be heard. That, for me, I'm very, very passionate about that, because there are so many other paths into the theatre industry.
Yeah.
I'm living proof. I'm from Clacton, mate.
I recommend anybody that's watching that loves going to our type of venue or any theatre, please follow Russell on Twitter and just have a read of his daily inspirational quotes that he's obviously trawled for and found something that it really does make me think every morning. You'll notice I often share them or a little like on them because they really do make me think. So thank you for taking the time to do that.
Thank you for having me on as well.
Pleasure, anytime. Don't forget you can get tickets for the Bobby Kennedy Experience at townandgown.co.uk to April 7th and 8th. And yeah, we'll see you soon. Russell, see you in 4 weeks.
Okay, all right, thank you, bye.